what happened? So last week, short meeting, not much demos. We talked about your SQL updates. And yes, so we left there talking about your SQL updates that probably broke NPG SQL support, but no, that's not that. I wish. Oh yeah, we looked at actually, yeah. So we were looking at the benchmarks and we saw that here, this is when we moved to the .NET 6. SQLite went from 3,000 requests per second to more than 17,000 requests per second. 3 to 17 times 5 at least. And then NPG SQL here, which is a black line, went from 2,000 to nothing. Also, what was weird is that it was 2,000 on Windows and it was 15,000 on Linux. So maybe an issue with how it was configured on Windows, whatever. Then it went to 0. So that's why I thought maybe I broke Orchard on NPG SQL. Sorry, on PostgreSQL. NPG SQL is the driver name on PostgreSQL with the change on your SQL, but no, it was not the case. It's just that with NPG SQL 6.0, which is a breaking change release, major release, the connection string had to be updated. So I updated the connection string and now it's working again. Yet you see that it used to be 14, now it's 12. So there is a significant regression here. So that will require a custom benchmark to compare Orchard on .NET 5 and .NET 6 to know if it's the issue from going from NPG SQL 5 to 6 or from .NET 5 to 6 to isolate the change. So we see that SQLite is also super fast here on Linux. Big jump again. So that is all good. And I was looking at, before the meeting, I was looking at that because if you look at on Windows, what shocked me is that thing here. This is this is a lock contention per second. So here it's 3,000 and there it's like 400. This is SQLite and this is NPG SQL, both on the .NET 6 using the same page. So probably there is something here in NPG SQL that does a lot of locking, maybe the connection pooling. That's something to report to Shai Rodzinski, who is the maintainer of the NPG SQL driver. So I was just looking at that. So that would be interesting to see what's up with NPG SQL. Maybe the two are related, but yeah, maybe we'll see. There seems to be a bug in Power BI because here you see it's changing. That's weird. So that's it, and that's what we were talking about last week. So nothing is broken. I also ran all the functional tests for all databases. Everything worked, so it's beautiful. I was worried because there are breaking changes in NPG SQL, and more specifically with the date time management, which is tricky. And I had to do some changes in SQL to still pass the unit test. So I was worried that it would break anything in Orchard. So that's it for the summary of last week and today. If you have anything even not useful to say, please say it. This way I won't be the only one. Demos. Who's here to do some demos? Are you trying to say something? Transliterate. Okay, because I was like, is that transliterate? So you want to talk about transliteration?
Yes, as a discussion and support from Orchard core.
Okay.
And
we'll talk about it after. When it's time for topics. Thank you for the topics. That's interesting. So that, any more topics? Demos, we don't have the usual demo maker. Status. I did the triage on Thursday. I had a last minute trip to the airport I had to do. 28 October, nothing new. Portrait call. Some things are new, so 17 from, so we saw this one and this one. Then I can double click on this one actually. Name, it's filtered. Okay, good. So 17. This is Antoine doing that during the meeting. Cache failover and shared options. What? I saw a lot of activity on this PR. I mean, I saw a lot of notifications. And where is the commit number? I want to see the, let's look at for this PR because it's a big thing. Failover. Distributed bypass, generic handler for distributed cache exceptions. Distributed, it's all about distributed stuff. Cloud scale. Document manager, get internal async, cannot handle Redis server maintenance. Yes, so sometimes Redis is not available. There are timeouts. What do you do? What do you serve when Redis is down and it's caching stuff and it's part of your system? Do you serve something? Do you just wait? Do you try again? Do you return 404? Azure Redis cache standard tier, distributed cache, and I've noticed on the pull request failing during the maintenance window. After some investigation, it appears the problem is the document manager method entry, which is passed to blah blah blah, has no error handling with try logic. So when we get a Redis timeout, the entire request fails. Looks like an easy solution which return a null ID. Just go to the document store. Okay, yeah, so you could say if the cache fails, then still go to the database and return something. At the same time, it's also dangerous because you could expose yourself to putting your site down, because if you expect not to do a lot of database stuff because you have a caching layer, this is the thundering herd symptom when too many accesses go to the same resource which is not cached or not yet cached, and then your site goes down. Okay, and then lots of discussions between Shane and Jean-Thierry. And then the PR. And when I say lots of discussions, this is the PR. And there are lots of discussions. Also connect retries. So what do we have? Default dynamic cache service, failover. High memory cache. So probably that's what I was explaining, that if this cache doesn't work, then maybe it's using a new memory cache to at least prevent the thundering herd. You see failover, maybe. Okay. Or maybe it's just a cache entry to do some retry. You see absolute expression. failover key. Yeah, maybe it's for some twins to do some retries. Who knows? That's bad. If there is this pattern here, this is so that nothing is allocated, but this is allocated. At the same time, it's a logger, so there is no, it will always be logged, we assume. So that's fine. But it's better in this case to do the two of them. Channel prefix channel. This way you don't allocate anything here. But that's okay. This lock. So it's just handling the fact that failover retry. Is there a documentation for that? At least there should have been some comments to explain what this property is doing. Failover retry latency. Okay, so it's just say that don't retry until that time span. What I'm happy with is that this is simplified, or maybe it just moves, yeah, it moves somewhere else. Okay, so these options move somewhere else. We talked about it a few months ago. Okay, so it looks like it won't retry if Redis is down for some specified configured delay. And yeah, that's okay. 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 Cache failover and shared options. Chantery, next time, put some comment on the property so we can understand. Because we didn't read that. Probably explained there. Make update atomic delegates scoped and distinct. Update atomic delegates scoped and distinct. Oh, document manager, okay. Great, document manager. But I don't know what the update atomic is. Page uses the result page route parameter. Yes, so Dean or Rasma, I don't know who found that, but someone filed an issue. Actually, you are not allowed to use page in routes because it's a reserved word because of razor pages. So it has been changed to page num, page number, page num everywhere. Someone found it by doing a custom work. Yeah, in the workflow or something. So it has been changed. Nice find, and it's funny that nobody else found that before, but it's a very specific case. And I had no idea about that. Use proper button, mediaBodySelectButton. Okay, bad copy paste. The wrong field / part was copy pasted. Now it's fixed. mkdocs, new contributor. 1 release. Oh, okay. Links to 1 release. Okay, build. Job. Code mirror update. Fix Liquid QueryCollection access. Okay. Probably a bug that was fixed. Interesting. 10.7.39. Request.query, that's something should return a question element value. Okay. New object value of that. New query collection of this dictionary. And by the way, there might be a simpler thing now, which is that I see 2 dictionaries, so I assume, yeah, 2 dictionary on the query means key value, so it will create a dictionary with the key and the values for every. So actually you can pass directly that thing, even without, oh, maybe it needs that. Maybe so. Maybe this was necessary before fluid 2.0.2.2, sorry, and now the dictionaries are handled automatically. So maybe that would just be sufficient without that. Another option is to create a custom class inheriting from object base value or object value base, and then you can define what happens when you access a property of this thing. And this will be a custom class dedicated for request query. So you don't need all these wrappers. That's another option. Object value of, yeah, I think there are many things here that can be simplified. Because it's handled now. Update using directive from Azure Key Vault Web Host Builder extension. Documentation. Okay. You can return and Cypress 910 a week after 900. So it must be better. Good. All good. Topics. So this says transliteration, which is supported in Orchard 1, I believe. But I need to remember what it is. Is this the fact that you transform some alphabet in another one, like Cyrillic to Latin?
Yes, yes.
Or Greek to Latin?
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Boom. Exactly. Oh, the type of conversion of text from one script, a script. Okay, it's not alphabet, it's a script, to another that involves swapping letters in predictable ways. So predictable meaning deterministic, like the same input gives the same output. So in this case, Greek, which is your case. This one, alpha, it goes to A. And the Cyrillic, this one, this kind of A, no, this is a D actually. Okay. Interesting. Transliteration. So in Orchard 1, we have something like this. Can you explain us what we have in Orchard 1 and what we miss in Orchard 2?
Yes, we have it, yes.
And how do we do that and what's missing? Orchard localization transliteration enables transliteration of content. Localization transliteration slug generation enables translation of the outer route. So I assume that's the main one you want, to be able to generate routes based on that, like a filter. And this one enables transliteration of content. I don't know what it does, but it seems interesting. Okay, let's look at it. Orchard core localization transliteration. You can talk in the meantime to explain what's missing and what you want. And
so I have opened a discussion in Orchard core just now. So the problem is that if we have Greek characters in the URL, the browser can handle this request. But if we want to share in Facebook and other social media networks channels, there's a kind of problem of scrapping the information. So for non-English characters, we should, I think that we should provide a transliteration filter on top of Slugify in order to accommodate this need.
Okay. Okay. Where is so Orchard? This is the core modules. Where are the modules? I just want to see, because we have two features apparently. One called let me go back. One called transliteration and one called transliteration slug generation. So I totally get what this does. I wonder what this one contains. Maybe it's just a generic service that is used by that. So in localization module, we have transliterations, enable transliterations of content, and slug generation. Okay, that's what I was saying. Okay, transliteration service. And I assume here we assume that the new string will be maximum twice the size of the source string, because you might need at max 2 chars to represent one source char. And we have notion of record, so it's like we can configure it. Nick wrote it. From specification 5, interesting. So for each culture, you will be able to define how it works from one culture to the other, which is weird because, okay, oh, I assume you can, okay, probably like, can it go away? Do you see what I'm seeing here, these two bars here? Okay. From one script to another, swap method. Yeah, so it's not just like Latin would be the destination. I assume you might even want to transliterate from Latin to Greek.
Well, not the most common case.
No, I mean, technically you can, right? But that's not what you want and what people want usually. They want to convert to, let's say, ASCII, because they want to support anything in the URL and without loss. Okay, that's what usually people want to do on the web. But I assume that when Nick made the feature, he said, well, it can convert from anything to anything. So what do you do when you convert from, I don't know, English to Greek? If this is, maybe culture is not the correct word in this case. They call it script in Wikipedia. So, and then you can define rules. So that's the question.
Yes, so you have to define actually the mappings between each character that you want to transliterate.
I see, and that might be that these rules. Question is what do they do? How do they work? String reader, transliteration from specification file, which is these rules, which is a string. Okay, from specification file, transliteration specification. Sometimes it doesn't work. Transliteration, okay, that's this one. Oh, it was there, okay. So specification, where is this class? Maybe it's a library. It is not. Oh, system natural language tool, so it's a library. So there is something like that, interesting. And oh, am I filtering on option here? I'm not. Like we are the only ones to use that.
Really?
I mean, grep is awesome, right? But no, that's weird. What is that? Okay, I'm also using that. So is it, why isn't it finding it? I'm not filtering on anything here. It's weird. So it's there. MS Translate Tools.dll. Ah, can be found. Okay, MS Translate Tools. TMS files. Okay. From specification file. Direction. Okay, direction. Replace. Blah 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 blah. Serbian Latin to Cyrillic. Serbian Cyrillic to Latin. Yeah, you see that you can go one way or the other. Okay, that's what we said. That's not what we want usually in our case, but you can go in one way or the other. That's why Nick did it this way. Generic. Okay, so apparently we are using something like this. So if we go there, packages, csproj, how does it work? Oh, packages.config, but is it there? It's there. Portrait MS Translate Tools. Portrait.ms Translate Tools is the custom branch. Okay. Interesting. Lombic owns it. It's even more confusing now. Oh, so yeah, we don't publish Orchard 1 on NuGet, but probably Nick and or Lombic made a module and they published it, a package to be able to use it, and they published it on NuGet, so we can reference it. And it points there. I have no idea where the source code is coming from. Maybe it's coming from our repo. Maybe we should look into the PR that created it. Okay, but that's interesting that we are using that and not something open source. Okay, so we need, so this library, this feature, sorry, provides, sorry, which is there, provides services to transliterate and to manage files. Then there is, I'll go back there, there is another feature, which is the slug generation. This one, transliteration slug event handler. Slug event handler, okay. And yeah, the idea is that when you generate the slug in Orchard 1, any feature can take part of that and do some more things. So that's how it works. In Orchard core, we have filters and you apply the filters you want. And it can be a default filter if you want to set it, but I'm not sure you want to do that. And convert the title using the culture. Must be the source culture localization aspect. Yes, this is the culture of the item. Okay. Transliteration service. If I go back there, services, the value and the source culture, and it says give me the specification for this culture, but it doesn't say culture 2. Get specification from specification, transliterate. Okay, well, that's just a reusable service. I'm not sure we need it as a reusable service. We can start with doing just a filter for that. Yeah, okay. And you said you opened a discussion or an issue? A discussion. Transliteration filter, yes. Should we include it as slugified filter option? Good question. Should be part of the existing filter, and then have an option that says transliterate true false. How should we implement specific culture mapping? So like, like if you want to say the same way in Orchard 1, you want to say all my alphas go to A, for instance.
Yes, yes. This is how I have implemented it now for specific case.
I see.
So after slugify, you have a very limited set of characters. So the slugify do the more of, so you have less character to map.
Yes, but still a lot. It's limiting because it's limiting it to the things that the URL can accept. But in your case, you know it's Greek, so you can just filter on the Greek ones. But it could be so many of them that it needs to be something more complex than that. Provided.
So if we have included, a mapping for each language, so you can add this, and I don't know, it's just an idea.
Okay, I see. So you think that it might be crowd maintained in crowding by having each char, or just even one entry somewhere, which is source destination, and we can map each char to a set of chars in a format. Oh, okay, I see. So if I go back there on this library here, this thing, TMS. TMS file. Maybe it's not transliteration, but translation. Yeah, maybe that's that. Translation. Maybe that's a translation management now. What's the name of the library that was used? MS Translate Tools. I don't know. So you need, okay. Wait, okay, so we have two issues there related to that. Okay. Provide a transliteration filter. So the issue is already created. Okay. That one. And that one. Transliteration feature. Okay, yeah, I think it's from Serbia, so it cares about Cyrillic. Transliteration 2019, okay. See both ways, okay. For example, there are exact rules to transliterate each character, okay. That has nothing to do with that. Note that the tgraph, okay, and ng are considered to be single letters in Serbian, okay. Create correct culture, double to answer that. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Closing to this one. Transliteration filter is the same as transliteration service. That complete. Yeah, I remember when Nick provided this feature, it also worked with not just a filter, but if you have a content in some language and you then start to translate it using the localization feature, we will create a clone and then you can update. Maybe here the goal is that when you clone it, it can also transliterate it. I think that's what Nick wanted to do. Yeah. So that's different here.
That's different.
So here this is rendering a content item that is written, let's say, in Greek. Then you could say, I want to render it in Latin. Well, in Greek, but transliterated. Should be somehow intercepted before render. Okay. So Thierry, let's say you have some text written in Greek and you transliterate it to Latin. Can Greek people read it?
Well, we call it Greeklis. They can read it.
It's because that's what he wants to do, right? Like in this case here, it says intercepted before render. And I'm like, does it make sense to show a page that is written in Greek but transliterated? It doesn't make sense.
The common scenario is that if you don't have a Greek keyboard, you write it with Latin characters.
I see.
But to have it written, but you want to transliterate, it's not a common case.
I'm wondering if the service should be, we could make a reusable service, but it means it will have to work both ways. If we make a service that is just transliterate that thing for URLs, fine, we can just generate Latin. But if you want to make it reusable, it needs to handle both ways and be configurable, as you say. So that's a different thing, but I understand.
Yeah, I think that this filter should be only valid for URLs.
Yeah,
I don't see any practical, scenario you want to do that.
Yeah, and yes, and if they want to intercept something and render it in a different script, you can use a middleware. But if we have a service that does that, then the middleware can use this service. Okay. So this one now, Signify and Diacritics, this one. So this one, yeah, I get it, Signify and Diacritics. It is using Signify recipes. It's quite a, okay, Signify. Removes all diacritics from given string, but in many languages we would like to transform them to other chars. Okay, for example, Polish, that. Removes all diacritics. Okay. Diacritics, such code service. Yeah, because in the code we use the Unicode ranges and then we convert them. So let's just see that quickly. But there is a library here. There is this one, diacritics.net. I'm not sure actually what's the difference between. Okay, so diacritics is to remove these accents, to change the sound values of the letters which they are added. Yeah, so in this case, it's removing the accents. Okay. So, which is somehow a sort of transliteration. Though this is the same script, which is Latin in this case, but here it's removing the accents. And in this case, then I don't. I see. So in this case here, this is just what it's supposed to do today. This one I'm not sure. For example, in Polish, yeah. Okay, so is that the same thing? That's the same thing. What did I want to do? Yes, I just wanted to, which is very simple. Well, we took it actually from module 1. Slugify filter. The Slugify filter uses the slug service. Slug service By the way, Soteris, the Slug service can be changed. So you could have your own implementation of a Slug service that does that, and also the transliteration.
Yeah, this is what I have done now. But
awesome. But yeah, I'm not saying it's the best solution. It's a mitigation.
The string array that I have used is very, limited to Greek. So I was wondering.
And here, here what we do for the slugification is that anything that is not that is a lowercase, a letter, or a digit is used as is. We remove space. Okay, if it's not a space, then we remove it. Oh, it's removing the diacritics by just removing the values completely. So does it mean that if I type, for instance, this letter, this text, it will just remove it? That's what it does today. It just removes it if it's not one of these. Because a Greek letter is a lowercase or other letter, it will keep it. But in the case of accentuated chars, it will be removed. And that's why the user here is saying he wants to replace them. He doesn't want to remove them. That's probably the issue. Removes all the, it was written, I can't read, that's it. Okay, everything made sense, but we just need to go back into the context and remember what was meant. Yes, I mentioned that here. I don't understand why nobody has done that, like submitted a PR with some solution, because it's not that complex and they need it. Yes, okay, so that goes to that. So this one transliterates to that, but then without diacritics. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. We go the easy way. We just, when we see that, we just remove that. But ideally, we should replace that with that. And transliteration is that part. Okay. Okay. So our slugification today handles diacritics by just removing them. So maybe the filter should have options about diacritic support and transliteration support. Diacritic support would say, well, just remove the char. I don't see why it makes sense to remove it if it can be replaced. So I think we removed it because it was easier, but if we can find the correct representation, we should just use the correct representation. Perf-wise, it's fine because it's just when we generate a URL, so it can be slower. And then if we want to transliterate, should it be, that should be an option, because you might want to keep the original chars. The same way you might want to not remove the diacritics, by the way. If you want to do that, why would we remove also the diacritics? So that might be two options, transliterate and also diacritics, whatever the word is, transliterate, and then, yeah, because you might not want to do the C accent to the C. You might just want to keep this one. The same way you might just want to keep this one and not transliterate if you use that so in some other context, so you want to keep the nice URL this way. Okay. Wow, and we have also libraries. Beautiful. Transliterator. I see you for. Okay, this one is interesting because we might need to use it for other reasons. And so I'm hovering the link. I will click on the link, but I see it's, so this is funny. So this library is from Night Owl 888 that you see I'm sponsoring, because this person is actually the maintainer of Lucene.net. He's making Lucene.net. And I'm also sponsoring Shannon.
Oh, nice.
Who used to work for Umbraco until last week, and he joined Microsoft. I was surprised. So he's working at Microsoft in Australia now. So maybe I shouldn't sponsor him. That's what I did with other people who started working at Microsoft. They have too much money, they don't need sponsor or support, whatever. So yeah, so this one is working on C.NET, and that's why I assume they work on ICU4N, which is a set of OS agnostic language tools. For instance, for time zones, we use that. Interesting. So there are tools to do that. And in the scene, that makes sense because you have to parse all the languages and to index them, so to normalize all the values. I see. Very nice. Okay, so we have solutions. That's good. These libraries, diacritics database, which I assume is just a specification about all the mappings between chars. And you see in this case, okay, diacritics, this is removing the, it goes both ways. Well, it's just, it looks like it's transliteration. Diacritics is also transliteration, but from different scripts. These two of them. A rule-based transliterator, which is very similar to what Nick must have done, I believe, like defining rule files. Create from rules. Yeah, what is this format? Maybe that's the format. Yes, I believe we should do that. We should use one of these ICU library, for instance. There is one. Yeah, so this is okay. This is the GitHub repo, and so there is one package which is called ICU4N, but this one is ICU4N transliteration, which is in the same repo. So maybe so it's called transliterator. Okay, we should use that. Whatever happens, we should use that. Apache 2. Yeah. So there is this one in .NET. .NET file switch to ICU on Windows. Ah, yes, but it might not be set up on Windows. So that's an issue I had with Fluid last week. I wanted to use the time zone from the .NET 6 on the .NET 6, but apparently some Windows machine, even new ones, they can be set up, or old ones, they are set up in a way that they don't use ICU, so you don't have the information. So on some Windows machine, it won't work. So I prefer to rely on packages. This way I'm sure it will work. I don't rely on the OS. I'm a little bit confused by how. Yeah, okay, it's two phases. It's true. Because you see here, I don't see Greek, but at the same time, yeah, it looks like it's just a list of mappings from one chart to the other. So it could be a single phase to also remove diacritics. So it could be an option, first transliteration and optionally diacritics. And this way you can configure that. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I believe you can do that into phases, 2 arguments on the filter, and configurable using a service in case it's required. I don't know how this library works, but string, do you have to set the culture? or is there some rules you can already load? I believe there must be rules already in this library. So yeah, okay, good. So so this issue has been closed or not? Slugify and diacritics, and yeah, okay. So and reference by is still very sure this one is closed. Okay. Like that. In Liquid. Okay, just a suggestion, but you can transliterate to like Latin, for instance, or to anything you want. And then you can also optionally remove, well, to preserve compatibility with today, we will remove diacritics by default, but you can also say, don't remove diacritics. Something like that. Because the slugify today removes diacritics. Should the slugify not remove diacritics by default, just slugify with dashes, and then have a remove diacritics filter, and then have a transliterate filter. But today we have that by default, so we should keep it and just have a transliterate filter. That could be another way. We could have a transliterate filter. That could be somewhere else also. Transliterate filter. Okay. So there is all the answers are there, right?
Yeah.
So when you write here this one to this one, this is diacritics, and this is transliterated.
Yes, exactly.
But when you transliterate that, it gives you A.
Yeah.
Without the accent.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do it in two different directions, in two different order, I mean. Let's see. So would that work like? Oh, so today, if you use the slugify filter, that works.
Exactly. Yes, this works.
Oh. Interesting. So if you do transliteration, it also removes the accent on the A. You see, wouldn't you expect to have an accent on the A?
No.
Because it's like when you transliterate, you might not need to remove the diacritics. But
yeah, actually, I don't know how it works for other languages, but for Greek,
but yes, yeah. So but if you transliterate from Greek to another one, then you might still want to do that, because otherwise it would be transliterate true if we don't say. That might be what we want for Slugify, actually. Slugify. Every time I type IN, I want to type the G. Okay, interesting. That's good data. Okay, so we need to do something like that if you want to work on something like this, even without reusable services. Either a transliterate culture or, yeah. So in this case, it's either something like that, or actually, if I write it this way, it's better. Can we write it? Yeah. Do we have to pass colon true? I'm not sure. It works, but can we remove that? I'm not sure. Probably not. Okay. Yeah, so but that works. Okay, that's my suggestion. We can do that and that using these libraries. Is there a diacritic support in this one? Okay. Done. Too long. Questions? No questions. Beautiful. Everything is perfect. See you on. Oh, not seeing you on Thursday, Thanksgiving, but seeing you next week on Tuesday for next meeting. Have a good week, everyone. Thank you.